Welcome to the deep dive. Today we've got, well, just a monumental stack of source material in front of us.
Yeah, it's quite something.
And what's really striking is the sheer range of major global events all happening basically in one news cycle, September 26, 2025. We're seeing these huge simultaneous shifts. Everything from, overhauling court procedures to massive defense deals.
And all against this backdrop of, well, alliance is changing really fast.
Exactly. It feels less like just another news day and more like, I don't know, a tectonic realignment.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. So our mission today really is to give you that shortcut.
Right.
To get past the headlines and unpack the key facts, the motivations behind these big decisions.
And a lot of this does originate with India, but the ripple effects are global.
Oh, absolutely. Whether we're talking strategic deterrence, international law, or even skilled migration patterns, these have an immediate practical impact on global politics, on economics.
Things you really need to be aware of.
Yeah.
All right. The gravity here definitely demands a deep dive. So let's start right at the foundation, the judicial system. There's a huge mandate from the highest court on speeding up justice. Okay, first up, the Supreme Court of India. The core fact here is, well, it's profound. New guidelines mandating criminal trials in district courts must now happen day to day.
Right. Day to day. And this isn't just a suggestion.
No, it sounds like a directive.
It is, and it's actually restoring a practice from, 30 years ago, aimed squarely at tackling these systemic delays in the courts.
That historical piece is key, isn't it? It shows the idea was there, but it just eroded.
Precisely. It kind of faded over the decades. So this decision, it's a really forceful legal push to bring back that fundamental right to a speedy trial.
Which is constitutional, right?
Yeah, enshrined under Article 21. And interestingly, this gets extra legal weight from Section 346 of the new BNSS 2023. That's the Bharatiya Nagarik Sosha Sanhita.
Ah, the new criminal code that replaced the old CRPC.
Exactly. It replaced Section 309 of the old Criminal Procedure Code.
Okay, wait, let's pause there. For maybe our listeners who aren't steeped in Indian law, why is that shift from CRPC 309 to BNSS 346 such a big deal for reinforcing this right? What changed?
Well, it's fascinating, really. You're moving from this colonial-era structure to a more modern code.
Yeah.
Section 309 intended continuous trials, sure.
Yes.
But the language, it left loopholes, little gaps for adjournments based on reasonable cause, which became, very flexible.
Right. Convenient, maybe?
Too convenient, perhaps. So by using the new BNSS provisions, the court is basically signaling zero tolerance for that old inertia, the kind that let trials just drag on for years and years.
So the new structure puts speedy justice clearly above, say, administrative issues or even lawyers just being busy.
That's the idea. It elevates the right itself.
Okay, so the intent is clear.
Yeah.
But how do you actually enforce this across, thousands of district courts?
Yeah.
What's the operational plan? Did the Supreme Court specify?
Oh, they did. The implementation strategy is quite detailed, actually. Justices Pardiwala and Viswanathan, they specifically told all the high courts to set up dedicated committees.
Committees to do what, exactly?
Their job is to seriously discuss this, create the administrative frameworks, and then make sure it gets implemented fast. Especially, they said, focusing on sensitive cases, high-profile criminal matters.
Where the delays are often the worst and cause the most public outcry.
Exactly. Where delays really compound social injustice.
And the biggest hammer seems to be aimed at how witnesses are handled, right?
That's the core procedural change, yes. It's mandatory now. Once a witness shows up, their examination has to be done consecutively, day after day until it's finished.
So no more 30 minutes today, come back in 2 months.
Gone. The court explicitly banned that common practice where adjournments happen just because, advocates' convenience.
Which could mean anything. Another case, unprepared, anything.
Right. Now, adjournments when witnesses are actually present. Only for recorded special reasons. Real emergencies, like a bereavement. The burden of proof for needing a delay, it's shifted heavily onto whoever is asking for it.
Okay, this directly attacks that whole piecemeal trial thing. We should probably explain that a bit. For listeners, what does that actually look like, a piecemeal trial? And why was the court so harsh about it?
Right. Piecemeal trials are really the heart of the inefficiency they're fighting. Imagine a key witness travels, maybe flies in from another city.
At considerable expense and effort.
Absolutely. In the old system, a judge might question them for, say, half an hour, an hour. Then, because the judge has other things, or the lawyers do, they send the witness home.
And schedule the cross-examination for when?
Weeks, months later sometimes, so the trial gets chopped up into tiny bits. One witness today, another next month, maybe the next one 6 months down the line.
Which must be terrible for memory, consistency.
And witness fatigue. People forget details, they get intimidated. Sometimes they just give up and stop coming back. It kills cases.
So the court's saying judges need to take charge.
Proactive control. Set a schedule for the entire witness examination phase right at the start. Make prosecutors issue summons promptly, coordinate efficiently. No more drift.
And they've backed this up with teeth. Financial penalties, even potential bail cancellation. Isn't there a risk, though, that linking delays to bail cancellation might hit poorer defendants harder? Those struggling to get good lawyers, rather than just people deliberately stalling.
That's definitely the friction point the concern critics raise. But the directive tries to be specific. It targets intentional delay.
So proven collusion.
Yes, if the court suspects actual collusion between the accused and their lawyers specifically to frustrate the trial, and on the financial side, to tackle the burden of witnesses traveling multiple times,
They pay.
courts can impose costs on the party causing the delay, matching what the witnesses spent. The goal is clear. Make deliberate, needless delay incredibly costly, both financially and legally. It's a huge cultural shift they're trying to force in the legal system. #TAG-D, be electoral integrity and postal ballots.
Okay, speaking of domestic institutional shifts, let's pivot to the Election Commission of India, the ECI. They've been busy. This is their, 30th reform in just 6 months?
Yeah, they've been on a tear. This latest one tightens up the rules for counting postal ballots.
And the backstory here is actually a positive development, right? More people voting.
Exactly. It's a result of the ECI's own success. They brought in home voting for persons with disabilities, PWDs, and senior citizens over 85.
Which is great for accessibility.
Fantastic. But it led to this huge successful surge in people using postal ballots, which is great, but then you need a really clear, robust counting process to handle that bigger volume transparently.
Makes sense. So what's the specific change? How did they tighten it? It's about the order of counting, isn't it?
Precisely. They've brought back a rule that existed before 2019. The mandate now is all postal ballots have to be completely counted and tallied before you start the second to last round, the penultimate round of counting the EVM votes.
EVM being the electronic voting machines.
Right, and the VVPATs, the paper trails. So finish the postal ballots first, then get to the final stages of the machine count at any given center.
Why is that sequence so critical? Especially thinking about close elections or political mistrust?
Well, in any tight race, especially in India, tiny margins matter hugely. Opposition parties have worried in the past that if the EVM count finished too early,
While thousands of postal ballots were still uncounted.
exactly, and if those uncounted ballots could actually swing the result, it opens the door to disputes, accusations, lack of trust. So by making sure all postal ballots are counted before the EVM results are basically finalized,
It removes that uncertainty.
it provides clarity. No last-minute surprises from a big dump of postal data changing the apparent winner. It ensures uniformity across all counting centers, which is just vital for maintaining public faith in the results.
And administratively, they must be gearing up for this bigger postal volume.
Oh, yeah. The ECI specifically told the returning officers, the officials in charge, to plan ahead. Get enough tables, enough staff dedicated just to counting postal ballots. Avoid bottlenecks.
So it's part of a bigger picture of modernization at the ECI.
Definitely. More transparency using tech like their SNet platform. It's all about bolstering credibility, especially with important state elections coming up.
All right, moving from institutional process to national security. India's just made a massive commitment, one of its biggest indigenous defense deals ever. A $7 billion deal for 97 Tejas Mk-1A fighter jets.
Yeah, this is huge. $7 billion, all domestically made by Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, HAL.
A huge signal about self-reliance.
No, absolutely. Atman Barda, as they call it. Profound commitment. The order itself, it breaks down into 68 single-seat fighters and 29 twin-seat trainers.
And strategically, this fills a big gap, right? Replacing older planes.
A critical gap. These Tejas jets are meant to phase out the Indian Air Force's aging MiG-21s. You know, the Russian planes with a pretty troubled safety record.
So a much-needed modernization boost.
Yeah.
Now, when we say indigenous, how much of the Tejas Mk-1A is actually locally sourced? And what does it bring to the table in terms of capability?
It's pretty substantial. Over 64% local content. That involves components from more than 100 different Indian defense companies.
So it's a boost for the whole domestic industry.
Massive stimulus for the aerospace sector, yeah. Capability-wise, it's a light combat aircraft, an LCA, known for being agile, versatile. It's got modern avionics, advanced radar.
And it can fight air-to-air as well as attack ground targets.
Both. Equipped for dogfighting and precision strikes. So it's not just buying planes, it's investing in the whole ecosystem.
Okay, a $7 billion deal takes time. What's the delivery schedule, and are there any potential hiccups?
Deliveries are set to start in 2027-28, then run for about 6 years. HAL is planning a big ramp-up in production at their facilities in Bengaluru and Nashik. The goal is up to 24 jets per year.
Ambitious.
Very. But, and this is the crucial insight, the potential vulnerability, the whole schedule hinges on getting the engines on time.
Which are not Indian-made.
No, they're American-made. General Electric F404 engines. And the source material points out that delays in getting these engines have already hampered earlier Tejas production runs.
So that dependency is still the main constraint, a strategic risk.
It remains the primary risk, yes, moving forward.
So the push for self-reliance is strong on the airframe, the systems, but the heart of the jet, the engine, is still reliant on a foreign supplier.
That's the complex reality, yeah. You reduce reliance on the old Russian fleet, but you gain a new dependency on a key American component. Still, pulling off this massive order is a core strategic priority.
To keep the Air Force edge in the region.
Especially given perceived threats from, China and Pakistan. Maintaining superiority in the skies is critical.
Okay, now let's broaden out to how India is managing its defense and strategic posture on the world stage. And the next headline is a really big one. A major tech and military milestone. Strategic deterrence, hitting the rails.
Yeah, this is a massive leap, a genuine step change in strategic capability. India successfully tested its nuclear-capable Agni Prime ballistic missile from a train.
A specially designed rail-based mobile launcher for the first time.
It's the very first time.
That puts India in a very, very exclusive club.
It absolutely does. You're talking only a handful of nations, really, just China and Russia known to have operational rail mobile missile systems.
Wow.
So this test, conducted under full operational conditions by DRDO and the Strategic Forces Command on September 24th, it basically proved the concept works.
Okay, tell us about the Agni Prime missile itself first, and then why is launching from a train such a big deal?
Right. Agni Prime is what they call an intermediate-range ballistic missile, IRBM, strike range up to 2,000 kilometers. It's got advanced guidance, and crucially, it's canisterized.
Canisterized meaning?
It's sealed inside a protective tube. That means it can be stored, transported, and basically launched almost immediately. Much simpler maintenance, much higher readiness.
Okay, but the real game changer is the train part. The mobility. Why is that strategically so much better than, say, a fixed silo, or even a big truck launcher?
Survivability, that's the key. And second, strike capability. Think about India's railway network. It's vast, right? It covers the entire country. Huge. So this missile launcher, it's built into what looks like a modified freight car. It can be moved rapidly, hidden anywhere on that network, mixed in with normal civilian trains.
Making it incredibly hard for an enemy to find and target before launch.
Exponentially harder. Satellites, spies.
How do you track one specific train car among thousands across millions of kilometers of track, possibly hidden in tunnels? It basically guarantees your deterrent force can survive the first strike.
And the launcher itself is sophisticated.
Oh, yeah. The source mentioned it has mechanisms to deal with overhead electric wires on the railways and these clamshell doors that pop open just before launch. It's complex tech.
So it boils down to minimizing vulnerability, maximizing reaction time. Precisely. Indian defense officials see this as fundamentally reinforcing their strategic deterrence, their readiness. The plan is for Agni Prime on rails to gradually replace older, less mobile IRBMs. It's a major statement of India's technological and military standing.
And that strategic positioning, it feels even more critical when you look at the other shifts happening at the same time. The geopolitical plates are moving fast. The next headline. U.S. President Donald Trump hosting Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif.
And not just Sharif, he was accompanied by the Army Chief, Field Marshal Asim Munir, at the White House.
That's hugely significant.
It really is. Probably the most significant geopolitical pivot in this whole news cycle we're looking at. It signals a major, almost startling improvement in U.S.-Pakistan relations. After years of, Well, pretty serious ups and downs, lots of tension.
And having the army chief there alongside the PM?
That's extremely symbolic. It confirms the military's central role in Pakistan's foreign policy, its diplomacy. And it suggests a serious, high-level rebuilding of trust between Washington and Islamabad.
This is a massive turnaround for President Trump personally, isn't it?
Mhm.
He was incredibly critical of Pakistan during his first term. What's driving this shift back towards collaboration?
It seems to be a couple of things. A recognition, perhaps, of Pakistan's ongoing strategic importance. Regional security, Afghanistan, counterterrorism, those haven't gone away.
Right.
But also, increasingly, trade seems to be a factor. And you can't ignore the context. Pakistan nominated Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize.
Ah, for his role in that India-Pakistan ceasefire.
Exactly. Which was fragile, but it happened. A clear diplomatic move from Pakistan to build some goodwill.
And the sources draw a really sharp contrast here. This warming with Pakistan is happening while U.S.-India ties seem to be cooling.
That's the crucial other side of the coin. While Washington is engaging Islamabad more closely, the Trump administration has taken some punitive steps against New Delhi.
Like tariffs.
Substantial tariffs on Indian imports, the administration's stated reason. New Delhi's continued and increasing engagement with Russian energy, buying Russian oil and gas.
And visas, too.
Yeah, they've also raised the cost of U.S. visas for Indian nationals, which directly impacts that flow of skilled workers, students, the very H-1B pipeline we'll talk about soon.
So strategic frustration over Russia ties is leading to economic friction with India, while trade doors seem to be opening for Pakistan. What kind of deals are we talking about?
Well, beyond the defense relationship, the U.S. has started exploring new trade cooperation with Pakistan. The source mentions potential deals involving critical minerals, maybe oil reserves.
Interesting.
And look at the timing, too. Sharif's visit came right after he met with Arab and Muslim leaders at the UN. It sort of positions Pakistan as a potential bridge, maybe, between U.S. interests and the wider Islamic world.
So the overall picture is complex, fast-moving,
Yeah.
a recalibration of power in South Asia.
Absolutely. And it definitely challenges India's previously maybe assumed position as the primary U.S. strategic partner in the region. Things are shifting. Hashtag tag, see India-Bangladesh strain and SARC stagnation.
Okay, sticking with regional friction, let's turn to India-Bangladesh relations. According to Bangladesh's interim leader, Chief Advisor Mohammed Yunus, things are currently pretty strained.
Yeah, strained is the word Yunus used. And he points the finger directly at India. The core issue, he says, is India continuing to support and host the former Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina.
Who left power after major protests last year.
Right. Yunus, speaking at the UN General Assembly in New York, he didn't mince words. He openly accused India of backing Hasina, despite, in his words, her government's harsh crackdown during those student protests.
He even used incredibly strong language.
It did. He alleged she committed crimes against humanity. That's extremely high-stakes language in diplomacy.
And how is this tension showing up in practical terms between the two countries?
Well, Yunus was specific. He criticized India for refusing to even respond to Dhaka's formal request to extradite Hasina back to Bangladesh.
So diplomatic stonewalling.
Seems like it. And he also claimed that misinformation campaigns, originating from Indian sources, are actively making things worse, poisoning the atmosphere between the two countries, exacerbating what's already a delicate political situation in Bangladesh.
Yunus also linked this specific bilateral tension to a much bigger regional problem. The fact that SARC is basically dead in the water.
Yes, the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. He directly blamed political roadblocks in, quote, one country, clearly implying India for the fact that SARC summits haven't even been held since 2014.
That's over a decade of paralysis for regional cooperation.
Total stagnation. But interestingly, despite this really sharp criticism of India, Yunus still argued for reviving SARC.
Why? What's the logic there?
His focus was on regional economic cooperation, boosting ties between people, youth, academics, businesses, suggesting that ultimately shared economic interests should, or maybe must, overcome the political gridlock.
Did he address the narrative you sometimes hear internationally about rising religious extremism in Bangladesh?
He did, directly. He dismissed claims of rising Islamic fundamentalism as fake news. So his remarks paint this picture of a really complex regional dynamic. Historic ties are being seriously strained by very specific political grievances right now. It's a tough balancing act between national sovereignty claims and the clear need for regional economic integration.
Okay, let's shift gears now. Moving from high-level state relations to how policy changes are affecting individuals, mobility, global talent flows, starting with the H-1B visa program in the U.S. We're seeing reports that Indian students are seriously rethinking their plans. Hashtag A, the H-1B uncertainty, and student migration.
Yeah, this is a potentially huge shift in how global talent moves. The core issue is uncertainty. Recent changes to the U.S. H-1B visa program have made that traditional path study in the U.S., work in the U.S., maybe stay permanently much less certain than it used to be.
So, what's changed?
Well, new U.S. immigration policies have brought in more scrutiny, and reportedly they've reduced the actual number of H-1B visas being granted.
So the odds are just lower now.
Lower odds and less predictability.
Let's trace that traditional path again, because for decades it was the blueprint for so many skilled Indians.
Right. The blueprint was, step 1, get an F1 student visa. Go to a good U.S. university, which is a massive financial commitment for most Indian families.
Huge invest.
Then step 2, graduate, get optional practical training, OPT. That lets you work for 12, maybe up to 36 months in your field, gain experience.
And step 3 was the crucial one.
The H-1B work visa, that was the bridge. The necessary step towards applying for a green card, for permanent residency. That whole sequence, F1 to OPT to H-1B, it feels destabilized now.
So students and their families are doing the math differently, the cost versus the potential payoff.
Exactly. They're calculating, is this enormous cost of U.S. education still worth it? If the job and residency outcome isn't almost guaranteed anymore, it's causing real anxiety about potentially a wasted investment.
And that anxiety is leading them to actively look elsewhere. Where are they considering instead?
Yeah, there's a definite shift towards alternatives. Destinations perceived as more predictable, more welcoming, maybe. Canada is a big one. Australia, the UK, too.
What makes those places more attractive now than the U.S., traditionally the powerhouse?
Predictability. That's the key word. Students are actively looking for countries with clearer, more defined pathways after graduation. Canada, for example, has robust postgraduate work permits and these express entry routes to permanent residency that are quite transparent.
So less of a lottery, more of a point system you can plan for.
More of a system you can understand and work towards. The UK and Australia have also tweaked their policies to try and attract and retain skilled graduates. And you hear that family networks, parents advising students, are now really prioritizing places where the outcome, a secure career, a path to stay, feels more guaranteed than the U.S. H-1B lottery.
What's the potential impact on U.S. universities? India sends a massive number of students, right?
Yep.
Huge source of revenue.
It's a major concern for them, definitely. U.S. higher education relies heavily on international student tuition fees. A significant drop in enrollment from India, that's a big financial hit.
So universities must be worried.
They are. Administrators report that, yes, the desire for a top-quality American degree is still there, but prospective students are now demanding much more clarity, almost guarantees, about what happens after graduation before they commit all that time and money. This H-1B uncertainty is fundamentally reshaping the global education marketplace.
Okay, shifting from migration back to high diplomacy. India's External Affairs Minister, S.J. Shankar, he delivered a pretty urgent message at the G20 Foreign Ministers meeting in New York, focused on peace and conflict.
Yeah, his core point was really interesting. He argued that peace isn't just some lofty political ideal. It's the absolute indispensable foundation for development. You can't have one without the other.
And he used specific examples.
He did.
Yep.
He explicitly mentioned the ongoing conflicts, specifically Ukraine and Gaza, and detailed how these wars are severely disrupting critical global supply chains.
Energy, food.
Energy, food, fertilizers, the basics.
And he argued these disruptions hit one part of the world hardest.
Absolutely. He stressed that the impact is devastating for the global south. Price spikes in fuel and food staples, they just worsen existing vulnerabilities. They push development goals further out of reach. So for him, resolving conflict is directly linked to fighting poverty and inequality.
What was his call to action then? How do we achieve this peace needed for development?
It was sort of twofold. First, more dialogue, more diplomacy, pretty standard call there. But second, he urged the international community to actively use countries that are actually able to talk to both sides in conflicts.
A clear nod towards India's own potential role as a mediator.
You could certainly read it that way. A suggestion to leverage nations that maintain channels of communication with conflicting parties. His warning was stark. Letting these hostilities and the economic uncertainty just fester only makes all the existing global problems deeper.
He also touched on terrorism, maintaining a hard line there.
Yes, very emphatic on that. Insisted on a unified global response, zero tolerance, zero accommodation for terrorism. And he made the point that terrorism networks are interconnected globally.
So action anywhere helps security everywhere.
That was the argument. Proactive steps against threats in one region contribute to everyone's security.
And finally, he didn't shy away from criticizing the global architecture itself, multilateral institutions.
No, that's become a key theme in his diplomacy. He criticized bodies like the UN for what he sees as declining effectiveness, lack of resources, inability to tackle today's complex challenges properly.
So what's the alternative he's pushing for?
A stronger, reformed multilateral system, one that's genuinely representative, that actually reflects the rights, the expectations, the development needs of the global South. His whole address really reinforced India's push for South-South cooperation and for a global governance structure that feels more equitable.
Okay, we're going to wrap up this deep dive into a really intense news cycle with something that often cuts across politics and economics. High-stakes sport. Pakistan has made it to the Asia Cup final.
And they're set to face their traditional rivals, India.
The big one.
It doesn't get bigger in cricket, really.
Very good.
Pakistan got there with a really strong performance in their last match. Very disciplined.
How so?
Well, their bowling was tight, really restricted the scoring, and then their batting was steady, aggressive when needed, but crucially, no big collapse under pressure. They chased down the target confidently, showed they're in good form.
The anticipation for an India-Pakistan final, it's just off the charts, isn't it? Beyond the pure sport, why is this particular matchup such a global event?
Oh, it's the economic engine of cricket, for one. These matches are just historically charged. They draw hundreds of millions of viewers around the world.
Huge numbers.
Massive viewership, which means enormous advertising revenue. And the emotional investment from fans in both countries and across the diaspora, it's incredibly intense. It's probably one of the most commercially valuable single-day sporting events on the planet.
And given how both teams have played in the tournament, it sounds like it could be a classic final.
It really does. Both India and Pakistan have shown high levels of skill, good tactics throughout the Asia Cup. So the final, it won't just be about talent. It'll be about who handles the pressure better.
The noise, the history, the weight of expectation.
Exactly. Temperament under that immense pressure will be just as crucial as skill. Whoever manages that best will likely be lifting the trophy. Hashtag out OTRO.
Wow. What an incredible range of critical news items, all packed into essentially one 24-hour cycle. We've gone from fundamentally reshaping India's court timelines,
Right.
securing election counts, committing $7 billion to homegrown fighter jets, fielding a new nuclear deterrent on rails.
Then navigating these rapid shifts in U.S. alliances, the Pakistan rapprochement versus the India friction.
Managing diplomatic strain with Bangladesh, tracking the H-1B uncertainty hitting students.
And charting a course for global reform at the G20. It's dizzying.
It really is. If you try and connect these dots, these seemingly disparate facts,
Right.
what's the underlying thread?
I think it's this theme of systemic, rapid institutional recalibration happening across multiple fronts at the same time. Domestically, you see institutions trying to force efficiency, force reform, speeding up justice, cleaning up election procedure.
Right, tightening things up internally.
While internationally, India's managing these huge geopolitical shifts, using tech leaps like the rail missile for deterrence, even as its historical ties, like with the U.S., are being actively challenged and reshaped by that U.S.-Pakistan dynamic.
That dual motion, rapid internal overhaul, alongside complex external navigation that feels key to this moment.
It really does, which I think raises a fascinating final question for you, the listener, to think about. We've talked today about these massive top-down changes, new legal mandates, new strategic systems, shifts in migration goals. Given the sheer speed and technical nature of these reforms, getting rid of piecemeal trials, formalizing ballot counting, changing visa pathways, how long does it actually take?
Take for what?
For the day-to-day reality, the internal culture of a huge bureaucracy or even a whole society to truly absorb and reflect such rapid top-down change. How long until these new rules become the new normal in practice?
That's a deep question. How long does it take for the ripples to truly spread out?
Exactly. It's definitely something to watch for, something for you to consider as the impact of all these facts we discussed today begins to unfold in the coming months and years.